Implementing custom logic in JavaScript isn't always easy. Many developers find it difficult to actually crack their own custom logic when writing their applications. If that's you, ensure you watch this video and watch it till the end. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chisum, your coding companion, and today we'll be diving into the wonderful world of JavaScript. Now, generally, in every web application that you want to include JavaScript, you are technically solving a problem. So, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to highlight the implementation of your logic as a problem that you're trying to solve. And before we actually start with what I have on my screen, I would like to explain some background things that we need to know. First of all, for you to be able to solve any problem, you need to first understand the problem. So you need to understand what the problem is. It's about. That is basically, if I'm interpreting into a building application, you need to understand what you want to do before you actually try to do it. And then the second thing is, whenever you're solving a problem that seems complex or seems huge, the best approach would be breaking that problem into simpler problems and then tackling those simpler problems one by one. This is what Hyperplexed always does. So I actually recommend doing this because it actually helps in actually solving problems. And obviously, you can't actually solve the problems in using JavaScript logic if you don't even know JavaScript methods in the first place. So please, if you're a beginner and you actually want to get started, but you don't have basic knowledge on JavaScript, I recommend one of my previous videos. It will be popping up soon. Ensure you go through it. I highlighted some resources where you can actually get started and actually start learning properly. So with that down, let's go into what we actually have for today. So first is what you see on my screen, problem solving technique. Now, like I said, generally you're looking at everything you want to implement as a problem that you're trying to solve. And if the first thing you need to do in solving any problem is to select or highlight the inputs, highlight what the actual problem needs, like what's provided to the system that actually wants to solve that problem. And then the next thing is to get the expected output. I indicated expected because generally you still output something, but the output should be what is expected. Let's take, for example, you're building a simple calculator. Now, your inputs are obviously the numbers and then the symbols, that is the operands and the operators, right? And then your output will be the result of the operation. So let's say I want to add two numbers, 6 and 5. My inputs will be 6 and 5, and then the operation, the type of operation I want to undergo, which would be addition in this case. And the expected output would be the output of 6 plus 5, which would be 11. So something like that. And then the next step will be coming up with a solution to connect the two. That is, coming up with a solution to link the inputs with the expected output. So let's say in a simple calculator, I'm just going to give a high level overview. So generally, if you are thinking of things like this, obviously the first thing you need to highlight is the inputs, and of course you'll be taking your inputs as your numbers. So your inputs, let's just indicate this, inputs will be the numbers and operands or you can say operations, the type of operations. So if you're a user that's coming into the app, you actually want to perform an operation, be it addition, whatever kind of operation on actual numbers. So that's your inputs. And then next you highlight the output. The expected output would be the result, I can type, result of the operations or operations. So the result of the operations will be the output. So with this in mind, then we can come up with solutions to actually implement them. So let's just go straight to the code. So I really scaffolded a project. Now this project was one of the first projects I worked on when I started as a beginner. So I just brought it here. And if you notice, you see version 1, yeah, because I looked at it and there were some things that didn't really sit well with me. but then I created a second version 2, which is really minimal, the minimal version of that last one, but like I think it follows best practices in actually structuring stuff. So let's get started. Let me just show you the output. So this is what we are working with. This is the version 1. If you look at this, the design is pretty much the same, version 1, version 2. We don't really have much. The first thing you have a div that contains everything as a container. You have your inputs that actually act as the screen, where the screen of the calculator. Then you have your number grid and a bunch of other things that do other functions. Delete that, like delete backwards, and like delete each character, clear screen that clears the entire screen, and so on and so forth. I won't really go into this. I want to use this just to explain the problem solving method. And then I have styles again. Obviously, I won't really go into these guys. Just to these styles are just here to like make it look pretty. This, like I said, is an old project. So now let's say you built this calculator and you've made everything look beautiful. You've added the buttons and you've styled everything and it's looking all okay, all wonderful. But then you actually want to add some functionality. Like you want it to be like, if I do 1 plus 1, for instance, I press equal to, it gives me 2, or maybe 2 now times 9, and it gives me 18, and so on and so forth. I want all this to be possible in my particular application. Now, the first thing, like we said, if you look at our problem solving technique, first we need to take the inputs. We need to know what the inputs are and know how we can separate and take them properly. Then we need to know the outputs, and after that, we can now find a way to link the two using the methods which we've learned. Okay, so let's get right down to it. So I'll just go through what I have here. Like, I don't really want to, there are a lot of things that's going on here, so I'll just like show you that I actually still followed that same method even as a beginner. Now, what I did was I first queried the DOM for different things, all the things I'm working with, and if you notice, look at it. Here I'm taking the inputs, I'm taking the symbols and numbers as inputs, and then I'm handling calculation and return the output. So basically, I'm still following the same problem solving technique, but then I'm using different the methods I've learned, like different methods I've learned using JavaScript. That's why you need to have a background knowledge on JavaScript methods, JavaScript, and there are different nuances that come with it, operations, and so on and so forth. So the major reason why I don't really recommend this my solution, this my version 1, which I initially did when I was a beginner, is that I used this function, the eval function. And generally, you won't want to use the eval in any of your applications because it leaves your app vulnerable to XSS. So that's why I don't really recommend this. But it's actually still working. I'll provide a link to the actual GitHub repo where this code is, so you can play around as much as you want. But I'm not really going to focus on this guy. I'm actually going to focus on the second version, version 2. So I have basically the same thing for version 2, but much more minimal, just the digits and then this simple thing. Let me just show you the output. So for version 2, I just have the numbers, then the symbols, and then clear screen just to like clear my screen, basically. So we're going to see how we can actually add functionality to this and take it step by step. Okay, so first thing, when you're trying to solve this, you've highlighted your inputs and then your outputs, and now how are you going to link everything together? How are you going to add this functionality? Obviously, the first thing that should bother you is how are you going to be able to get each and every one of these buttons. For example, this button that has 1, this one that is a plus sign, and this multiplication. How do I actually hook into this? And that's where you have to learn DOM manipulation, being able to query the DOM. So I've been able to query some stuff here. So the first thing I queried was the screen where everything's going to be output, the digits, that's numbers, symbols, plus, minus, division, and so on and so forth. Then the clear screen button and then the equal button. So what this thing is doing is the first step, getting the actual elements. Now the next step now is adding the logic. Now this is where we're going to actually break it down into a series of steps. So before we can actually be able to apply logic like 1 plus 1 or 2 plus 2. We need to actually find a way to get the numbers as we click on each button. Now, I want it to be that when I click on 1, I get 1. When I click on 2, I get 2, and so on and so forth. I want it to be, I want this to happen like this. So what I did here, which is very, very simple, is I didn't want to actually go and call digits one by one, so I used a query selector or. And what query selector or does is that it returns all the DOM nodes that actually satisfy this query. Yeah, that's it. That actually satisfy this query. So if you check the HTML file, you see that every single button that has all these digits 1, 2, 3, I gave it a class name of digits. So what it's doing is returning a list of all those buttons. So and then I use a for each loop, so you need to actually understand JavaScript syntax. So I'm using a for each loop to loop through each element of this array or this list that's being returned, and I'm adding an event listener to it. Now, what is this event listener doing? Very simple. So if you look at this, it's very, very simple. What it's doing is it's adding a click event, and once this is clicked, this particular function is fired for just the number buttons, which is insert num. So let's go over to where insert num is defined, so we can use it. So now what insert num is doing is simply taking the text content or whatever bot I click on, is looking at whatever digits I'm clicking on. So if I'm clicking on this, what it does is that it checks its correct text content, the text within it, and then it returns it. What I'm doing is that as I'm getting that text content, I'm appending to the screen. So screen.value, I'm using an input as a screen. So what it's doing is that it's appending this text content to the screen. That's all. So that's basically what that one is doing. So that's why each time I click on the number, you see that it's appending this number to the screen. That's the first step, getting the number on the screen. Once I'm able to get the number on the screen, the next thing is, okay, I've gotten my first operand. So the next thing now is to actually indicate the operation I want before indicating my second operand. The next thing is to pick a symbol. Now, it was very, very simple to actually select this the symbol. All I had to do was give all the symbols a common class name, and then use the same query selector or to get the symbol. And then what I want to do is that I want to listen for a click event. Each time the symbol is being clicked, I want it to do something. So what I did was the same thing I did for the digits. For each symbol, I attached a click event, select symbol. So let's now look at what the select symbol is doing. Okay, basically this was my thought process in actually crafting this version 2. Now I want it to be that when the user types, so as you are, how you implement this as you are going is that you reason, how do you want your application to work? How do you want it to run? Imagine it, then break it down, and then try to see what you can do to fix or handle those different sections that you've actually highlighted. Okay, what the select symbol is doing is very simple. Now, this was my thought process. Depending on, because this was how my application, I wanted my application to work. This is how I wanted it to work. I wanted it to be in such a way that the moment, sorry, I don't know why it has not loaded. The moment I click maybe a number like 12, I've selected my 12, and I select an operator. The moment I click on this, 12 is taken out of this the screen, but it is stored somewhere. So the reason why 12 is going to be taken out of the screen is that I want the screen to be available to type the next number that I want to combine. So that was how I wanted. This is how I want my app to go. So it depends on what you want your app to do. So if you notice, like here now, I have 12. I click on plus, it disappears, giving me the opportunity to type the next number, which is 6, and then equals 18. So this was how I actually wanted my app to run. So it all depends on how you want your app to run. Now let me just reload this. Sorry. Okay, so 3, I want something to happen. And once I click on any operator, I want this 3 to leave the screen, but I still want to keep it somewhere. I want to store it somewhere so that I won't lose context. My application won't lose context of it and still have a reference to it. So to do this, first of all, I had to create a store. So I created a store. I initialized the store to an empty array. So this store is where I'll be storing the previous values or the previous or first operand that I want to actually work with. So basically, that's what this line is doing. What I did here is that the moment this function is called, that means the moment I press a button or a symbol button, is going to store this result. So I'm storing this current value number that I typed inside this store here. And obviously, as I'm storing it, I want to clear the screen to set the stage for my next number to be typed. You get? So now that one is down. So I want to be able to do that. So I store that result. The next thing now is I also want to keep track of that particular operator I selected. Let's say I did 3 and I clicked on plus. Now I want to be able to know that. So you see this application is finished. That's why you see it's already purple. I want to be able to indicate that this is what I selected. I want to know in my application that this plus is what I selected. So what I did in the next line was I used a class to indicate this. So what it does is that it first removes the class. So in case any other operand was selected, so let's just say in case I selected plus before and I want to change to minus, it would remove the selection from plus and go to minus. So something like that. Now, what this thing is doing is that it's just removing the current class from a previous operator in case you selected the previous operator, and then it's appending the current class into the current operator you selected. So if, for example, now you selected plus, it applies the current class to it. Now my current class just gives the background color. You can do whatever you want to do with yours. So the background color is to highlight to the user that this is what the user actually typed or selected. And now with that, I've been able to take in the number as input, the first number as input, and then the operator as an input. Obviously, our inputs are incomplete because I am only keeping track of, let me reload this, sorry. I'm only keeping track of the first number and the operand. So what about the second number? Let's say I'm performing just binary operations. Now, I also made provisions for that, but that would come in during the calculations. So, for example, I say 3 plus 3 and equals, press equal, it gives me 6, something like that. So, excuse me. I don't know why I've been refreshing since when I have my clear screen here. Okay, sorry for that. So now we've been able to find a way to get the number, gotten the symbol. Now next is to bring them all together. So like I said, input, once you've gotten your input, all you have to do is link it to the output, and of which the output would be the actual answer. And that's where this function comes in, handling calculations. Now, what this function is doing is at the moment I press my equal to, press the button that has the equal sign, what it's going to do is first checks what is the current symbol that is there. So it's actually, that's why this current class is very important. So for example, if I go here and 3 plus, now it should check which particular operator is the current operator that is being highlighted. So that's the first thing. So now I didn't want to use if else statements, so I'm just using a switch case. So it's checking, is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, division? If this is division, just so you know, you can check it out, check the code later, so you will be clarified on what it means. So it checks the 4 cases. I'm only handling these 4 cases in this very, very simple version. And what it does is that for example, if it's the addition, it checks the store, what was stored in the first index of the store. So it checks the store and then stores the sum of the previous number that was stored with the current number within our screen and stores in the results. So if it's subtraction, it subtracts. If it's multiplication, it multiplies it, and so on and so forth. And after that, it then displays the results in the screen. So that's what happens. So over here, 1 plus 2, and I press equals and I get 3, something like that. Now everything works out. I was able to link my inputs to my outputs. I broke down every single thing along the way, and I was able to actually solve this problem. I was able to create craft this logic that actually works for me. Now, obviously, you need to reset everything at the end of the day, so that when your user wants to recalculate everything, it doesn't have to actually refresh the page or so on and so forth. And then this clear screen is just to clear the screen. Nothing much there. Yeah, nothing much there. That's just it. This solution is actually buggy, so feel free to edit it and add more operations. You can update it so it won't just handle binary operations. You can do a lot of things here as much as you want. Play around with it, try new things, and so on and so forth. This is just to get you started and to explain the concept of actually applying logic. Yeah, so I'll make this code available. I'll link it to the description below. Well, and that's a wrap for today's coding session. If you really enjoyed this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to never miss out on our coding escapades. I'd love to hear your opinions on this video, and if you have any video requests related to front-end stuff, technologies in general, please do not hesitate to indicate them in the comment section, or you can actually reach out to me privately. And till next time, happy coding and stay awesome.